episode of Chelsea Updates Daily. Today it's been kind of another slow news day, we're getting the same kind of regurgitated transfer stories out there like Danny Drinkwater, Renato Sanchez, and all that kind of boring stuff. Everything's going on with Neymar going to PSG, so there's no real stories coming out. So today I thought I'd make a different kind of video for you guys. I've been wanting to branch out with the channel, make different types of videos. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons why Chelsea fans should be excited for this season coming up, because hasn't seemed that there's been a lot of Chelsea fans really excited for this season, but I'm here to convince you otherwise. Coming in at number 5, we have our new signings. So everyone's been getting kind of down in the dumps about Chelsea's transfer activity this summer, but I'm here to convince you that we've actually made some quite good signings that will definitely help our squad going into the Champions League and playing in the Premier League in 4-5 competitions this season. So basically, everyone's been getting down in the dumps about Alexandro, the fact we haven't signed him, Alexis Sanchez, everyone was really keen thinking that deal might actually happen, and a few others, Renato Sanchez, all those kind of guys. But if you think about who we've actually signed, Timo Bakayoko, title winner in France, Champions League experience, Antonio Rudiger, German international, Champions League experience, been playing at the top of Serie A. And we've also got Alvaro Morata, scored 20 goals for Real Madrid last season when he barely even played. He's scored in a Champions League final, he's won the competition twice. These are all competent additions to the squad that, if you think about it, Antonio Conte has gone for Champions League experienced players. And this is a kind of a quality play that we haven't necessarily always gone for. And while they may not all be the biggest names, they're all players that have been in successful teams to some degree, and I think that bringing them all together is just going to keep that winning mentality at the club. Coming in at number 4, I have Eden Hazard. So basically, not a lot of people have been talking about what a great job Chelsea have actually done of keeping Eden Hazard at the club this season. If you remember after last season, when he didn't play that well and he had all the troubles with injuries and Mourinho and what was going on, people thought he wanted to leave the club. Now there's massive rumours about him going to Real Madrid. That's always been the link, and I still think potentially 2-3 years down the line we are going to see Eden Hazard in a Real Madrid shirt. It's one of those inevitable things about life. But we've done an excellent job of keeping him this season. This is Eden Hazard. You're talking about possibly one of the most talented players ever to wear a Chelsea shirt. He scored 16 goals last season, was a vital player in 2 title-winning campaigns now. This guy is just immense. PFA Player of the Year in 2014-15, and this guy, arguably, Kante definitely deserved the credit that he got for the award for the PFA Player last season. But for me, Eden Hazard was our player of the season. He was just incredible. Every time he touches the ball, you just feel like he can do anything. He's definitely the best player that we have at the club right now, and keeping him away from Real Madrid is key. Now, in the injury that he sustains on international duty may have helped us keep him, but I think that he would have stayed regardless. And I think that's because that Chelsea are a big enough club now that we don't have to worry about the Real Madrids. I mean, there's always the inevitability that a player will leave for a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or Bayern Munich. But I think that we're able to hold on to these players, where a club like Liverpool perhaps, who hasn't sustained success for as long as us in the last 15-20 years, aren't able to hold on. You're watching Coutinho. I am guaranteeing that Coutinho will go to Barcelona this season. It's just how are they going to hold on to him when they can't offer him consistent Champions League and consistent pushing for titles? Liverpool just aren't that kind of club right now. Arsenal, let go of their best players consistently. And that's where we are as a club. And keeping Eden Hazard is essential. And I think if we can get Eden Hazard fit for a lot of this season, playing in the Champions League, and I really hope Antonio Conte is going to get the best out of him. And at number 3, I have, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So basically, a lot of Chelsea fans have been crying out for big change at the club. People don't want to see the likes of Marcus Alonso, Gary Cahill, these kind of players that are seen to be a bit below par and below step. And to some extent, I agree. I don't think that Gary Cahill and Marcus Alonso are the best possible pairing that we could have. But like I said before, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So Antonio Conte's got a winning mentality in this squad. He's got a team that has a routine, and yes, routine is dangerous because it will be overthrown eventually. We've seen that with the likes of Leicester even last season. It works for a while, but then teams eventually figure you out. So you got to evolve, but you don't have to rip up the structure and change it all overnight. That's what a few people have been wanting from Conte, and I don't think that's necessarily what the club needs. I think that we need to tweak a few things, but this is a side who last year won 30 Premier League games. That's breaking the record for the amount of wins in a single season in the Premier League history. And if that doesn't say enough about the club and where we are, then what else will? And I know a lot of people will argue that, Manchester City have strengthened, Man United have strengthened, arguably Liverpool have strengthened, and there's a lot of clubs that are catching up to us. People have that feeling of, maybe we're not moving the level that we should, maybe we're not moving high enough, are we stagnating, that sort of thing. I would definitely argue that we're not, with the additions that we've made. But also, don't forget, with that win record that we broke, every team has got to catch up to us now. We're watching these teams make big moves, but they're all still below us right now. We are the champions of England and we shouldn't forget it. Coming in number 2, we have Antonio Conte. So, Chelsea's Italian boss, right? Won the Premier League in his first go at it, really, and basically changed the way that we've viewed the club. Played the 3 at the back. This guy's clearly a genius. Won 3 Serie A titles in Italy, and the fans love him at Chelsea. The fans love him at Juventus. The Italian fans love him. Wherever this guy goes, he just brings this joy and energy to a club. He's revitalised the club since the failings of the 2015-16 season. Antonio Conte is a proven winner. Like I said before, 3 titles in Italy. Going one of those seasons undefeated. I believe it was his second season off by heart. And so why should we be excited as Chelsea fans to see him get his second season? He's going to bring in his own signings this season. There's rumours that Kante was a signing that was agreed between the club and him and who he wanted, but not necessarily all the signings I thought we brought in last season were his first choice. And still, I don't think Antonio Rudiger was his first choice, but Timo Bakayoko was definitely a first choice this season. Alvaro Morata was definitely his first choice this season. People are arguing that Romelu Lukaku was his first choice. Never in a million years. That was the board's first choice for sure. The club definitely wanted Romelu Lukaku. That was pushed by Emenalo and that whole crew up on top board. And rightfully so, in my opinion. I don't think we should chastise Emenalo for wanting Romelu Lukaku. He's a great player and he would have done pretty well at Chelsea, I feel. But Antonio Conte getting his guy in, getting his player in, I think that shows a level of commitment from the board that we haven't seen really entrusted to a single manager since Jose Mourinho. Think about Carlo Ancelotti, that second season. He didn't win anything, but he won the title in his previous season and he was dropped. And you just can't help but look back at stuff like that and think, what could have been? What could have been if we gave Carlo Ancelotti another season? Would have we won a Champions League title earlier than we did? But now that Antonio Conte is in charge, he's got his second year, things are really starting to take shape. And I feel like he's going to make more of an imprint on the league than even last season. I feel like he's really going to dig in his heels. We're going to see a lot of this flair that we heard about in Italy when he joined. Everyone talks about how he's very, very sarcastic with the media. He likes to pick fights with other managers. He riles people up. We didn't see a lot of that last season. There's kind of been a couple feuds, and the one between him and Mourinho is really starting to pick up pace now. I think they're definitely going to clash head to head next season, and I think that they partially, both those managers want that, to potentially derail each other's club, and I think that's going to be an interesting force that we're going to be watching next season. And at number 1, I have the Champions League. Chelsea are back in the Champions League after missing out last season because of that terrible 15-16 season where we finished 10th and didn't qualify. So, I've heard a lot of fans talking about, Chelsea aren't ready to compete in the Champions League, and we're not a team built right now that can push on those fronts. Nonsense, in my opinion. Now, if you look back at Chelsea's history in the Champions League, last 15 years of Chelsea Football Club, we've made the semi-finals or further 7 times. 7 times, that's incredible. We've been in the top 4 teams in Europe 7 times out of the last 15 years. Now, if that doesn't show sustained success, I'm not exactly sure what does. We definitely should have won it more than once. Should have won it in 2008. Potentially should have won it in 2009. And I would even argue 2005, we should have won it as well. So, this is a club who have, you could argue, underachieved at the very, very top. But we've always been right there. Luck hasn't gone our way. A memorable semi-final against Barcelona, Iniesta scoring that late goal after Chelsea being denied 4 penalties. John Terry's slip in 2008 was heart-crushing. But this is a team who are always at at the periphery of glory. And I really think that we're going to shock a few people in the Champions League this season. All 4 signings we've made this season so far have played in the Champions League before. And you know, that bringing that wealth of experience is never a bad thing. So, you know, while some of these guys may be young, apart from Caballero, these guys are all young, hungry guys who have that experience. And I think Conte's really going to make a go of the Champions League this season. I think they're going to go a bit under the radar, which is excellent. I think we're going to be the best English team in the Champions League. May live to eat those words, but that's really what I think. I think this squad is strong enough. I think it may lack depth. That's the problem with going far into the Champions League. You know, maybe quarterfinals, semis is where we peak. I'll be happy with the semis personally this season, and try and push for a semis final again the season after. I mean, you can only hope win the Champions League because it's so competitive. Another thing people don't seem to realise is that Conte has this unfair stigma against him in the Champions League. You know, people tend to think of him as a manager who is unable to achieve in the Champions League because he didn't win the Champions League in Juventus. Nonsense. His side, in their first season in the Champions League under Conte, reached the quarterfinals and were extremely unlucky to go out to Barcelona. They were an elite side who just needed the experience, and you know, Conte gave them that experience. You know, you can argue Allegri took them to the final the season after Conte left, but the bulk of that was still Conte's squad. That was his players that had that winning mentality, that experience. And I truly believe that, even though don't get me wrong, I do rate Allegri extremely highly as a manager. I think tactically he's even superior to Conte. But as a manager and as a guy that can energize a football club, I believe that Conte definitely could have achieved the same level of success that season that they reached the Champions League final. So guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys, let me know in the comments if you guys are excited for this season or if you're a bit bummed on this season. What do you think about my points? You know, what are our new signings like? And yeah, is there anything that you want me to talk about in perhaps some more videos? Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you like this and subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be uploading daily. I'm trying to keep it as consistent as I can. And yeah, if also you wouldn't mind following me on Twitter, so I'll make it appear here for you, Stephen Clark CFC. And yeah, cheers guys. Go Chelsea.